Hi, my name is Representative Angus McKelvey. It's been my honor to serve the 10th District, which is West Maui, Ma'alaya, and 2 streets in North Kihei since 2006. I was born and raised in Hawaii, actually born in Honolulu, raised and grew up and lived in Lahaina my whole life. I am running for re-election again and continue the work on infrastructure, which has finally gotten going after 30 years of non-action, as well as to push to continue to streamline the procurement code so that government can be more efficient in getting projects out and people can get back to work, as well as moving forward on renewable energy, agriculture sustainability issues, and as well as other types of issues including election reform and business reform, particularly that for small business.
The Lahaina Luna boarding school program, what do you think about it? Should it continue to get state funding, or should it look elsewhere to sustain operations? And if funding is kept, what areas of education should be cut instead?
Well, I'm a big supporter of the Lahaina Luna boarding program. I was the leading advocate in the fight to help save the funding, not only during the legislation, but before the legislative session when the Department of Education, the Board of Education, was looking at cutting the program. I support state funding for the Lahaina Luna boarding program, as well as other what are called categorical programs, because they offer education opportunities to kids that otherwise would not exist. The Lahaina Luna boarders actually save the state money because they do repair and maintenance projects on the campus that they would otherwise have to hire fully contracted people for under collective bargaining with benefits and other types of pay that would far outstrip the amount of money that is spent on the boarding program each year. I continue to support the funding for the boarding program. It's only $300,000 when you can compare it to the overall Department of Education, which is 41% of the entire state budget. It's a very mini piece. I think, however, ways we can improve the program and make it better, as well as to offset the cost to the state, are to do two things. One is to go ahead and to engage in public-private partnerships. I am hoping to introduce legislation next year that would allow for a partial income tax credit offset for companies that go ahead and make donations of services and products to categorical educational programs. If we want to have STEM, science and education and math, like Ellison Onizuka Center, if we want to have navigation like the Nainoa Thompson Academy, and if we want to have agriculture and renewable energy studies like the Lahaina Luna boarding program, we need to continue to support our categoricals, but engaging the private sector is the way to go.
Two industries on Maui most impacted by the economic downturn have been the construction and tourism industries. What do you plan to do at the legislative level to get people in those trades back to work?
Actually, one of the things we've already done this last session, I co-authored a bill that became known as the Local Jobs for Local People bill, which mandates that any public works contracts that are issued, they have to have at least 80% of the workforce have to be local residents. So on the private sector, we need to look at the permitting system. We have to streamline permitting and put deadlines in permitting so that paper just simply isn't pushed from desk to desk to desk, which is called agency review. Under my chairmanship of the Economic Development Committee, we passed an Act 175, which basically says that if a company is going to protest a procurement award, they have to put up 10% of the value of the project up as a performance bond. This way we can stop frivolous protests. One of these frivolous protests actually stopped the Lahaina Harbor project, and because of this act, it just recently went out for bid and was awarded. And I'm very happy to say that, you've heard it here first, that the Lahaina Harbor project is finally going to get going here this summer, and we're going to have a groundbreaking very soon. On tourism, actually, the good news is that we have many airlines are now opening exclusive routes to Maui, Alaska Airlines, America, and others, and they're actually opening up more routes to Hawaii and canceling routes to Mexico because of the demand. How we can go ahead and help that is to look at perhaps elimination of the GET for fuel purchases outside the foreign trade zone here in Maui, as well as trying to go ahead and push on continuing our airport improvement and modernization plan so that when people get here, they have an experience of ease and comfort and they come back. It's the return visitors that spend more money and spend longer times and make a bigger impact in our economy.
The next question is about the economy. What type of legislation do you hope to introduce or support to help stimulate the neighbor island economy in particular?
I mean, I look at the neighborhood economy actually in two facets: job preservation and job creation. We have pretty much eliminated all of the tax credits off the books. They're all going to die on December 31st of this year. One of the tax credits I tried to extend this year was the research and development tax credits. Unfortunately, the governor vetoed it. That is one of the biggest engineering facets for economic growth, because these companies are coming into Maui and using the credit to hire local people, particularly those with technical backgrounds, those coming out of the University of Hawaii at Maui, as well as those who are returning National Guards men and women. On the preservation side, I introduced a bill last year. Unfortunately, we had to put it to the side because we had to deal with the impending hike in the unemployment insurance rate. However, it's called work share, and what it does is it allows companies to basically pay an employee part-time. They keep them full-time, and they're allowed to use the unemployment insurance fund to go ahead and pay for those lost hours. They keep their benefits, and for the company, they retain their skilled workforce, and they're able to not have to hire new people and retrain them to expand and take advantage of the opportunity of the recovering economy, as well as new visitors coming in. I think we need to look at it sector by sector. What's good for the agricultural industry may not work for the high-tech industry, may not work for the maritime industry. However, I will continue to push for things like looking perhaps floating state bonds and using state land for a food processing center for ag, bringing back the super ferry and making sure it's done right this time, as well as looking at all sorts of incentives. But the one key is we have to really hit the ground running and get these bills on the governor's desk and get them into law.
In regards to the Honoapi'ilani Highway, there are currently widening and realignment projects taking place, but they don't address the immediate concern of traffic relief when there's a fatal traffic accident or a major fire that forces the closure of the road. What alternatives do you envision to alleviate infrastructure concerns right now?
Well, actually, amazing work is being done. For 30 years, no work was being done on the bypass or the widening. The bypass now is going, the most important sector is going full tilt, which is Section 1A. I actually have a law on the books that I passed my freshman year called Traffic Emergency Zones that allows for when a road is closed for the state to use the cane haul roads. The one thing that we really need to do is to actually have the governor or the mayor, because it also applies to the county, make these kinds of declarations. I was a big advocate of using a cane haul road system, but the problem is the DOT has done a study, and there's many bridges in between the cane haul road segments that are unfit to carry cars. They can't support the weight. So what we realistically need to do is engage perhaps the private landowners to see if there are certain segments that we can pave and improve to create little alternate feeder routes around. The big thing that's going to make the biggest difference, and something that I've been pushing for, and unfortunately this Republican administration vetoed it, was the intelligent traffic system. Cameras will update drivers on real-time conditions, showing where the road closure is. Bulletin boards would actually have up-to-date information, and radio stations and web outlets will be able to show real-time traffic information so that people aren't sitting there in traffic hoping, well, maybe the road will open, maybe it won't. Notification, use of the cane haul roads, and getting a traffic emergency zone declaration are things that can help, but things are moving.
And any closing thoughts is your opportunity to touch upon anything that I didn't ask you, or to give some contact information.
It's been my honor and privilege to serve the community of West Maui for the last 6 years. Given the 30 years of inaction, I think amazing things have happened in just a small amount of times. The dirt is flying. If you look around the island of Maui and around the state, all of the highway projects that are being done in Lahaina. The Lahaina Harbor project is finally coming on bat, but there's a lot more to do. We got to get the repair and maintenance backlog of our schools sped up. We've got to continue to streamline the procurement code. And most of all, we got to continue to make government accessible. And, you know, it's all about customer service. You are the customer. Government is here to serve you, not the other way around. I'm happy to say that we have balanced this budget the last 2 fiscal years by cutting. Over 55% of the budget was cuts and eliminations, but we're getting to the bare bones now. The challenge I have to you, the voter, is if we're going to cut more, what ideas do you have to cut? Now more than ever, you, the public, have to be engaged into the process, because it's your ideas that are going to really drive the next 2 years to 10 years to the future. You can reach me at my office in Honolulu on legislative issues at 586-6160. I can also be reached through my campaign cell phone, 870-8644. And if you see me on the side of the road or walking door to door, you can say, "How's it, brother?"